experience. How is... Ooh, let me die off camera now. Ooh, oh boy. How do I transition there? There we go. There we are. Hello. Oh, where did the music go? No, come back, music. Come back, you fool. Why have you betrayed me? Oh, no. No. Wait. Where's my music? Well, hello, everyone. Let me get my music back. I think I know where my music is, but I don't... wait. Where are you? Let me get my music back, and then we'll say hi to everyone. How is everyone doing today? Well, I quick get my music. That should do it? Maybe? Question mark? Possibly? No? 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 Well, we might have to do without music today, because that's so weird. That's so strange. I'm sorry, my music bit isn't playing. Maybe if I do it this way. I have another way. I hope everyone's doing well tonight. Sorry, I just want my music. I like having my music. Wait, I think I got it. Here we are. This'll do it. Now can you hear that? There we go. That did it. Perfection. How is everyone doing today? I hope everyone is having a wonderful evening, this fine evening. Heart to everybody. Good to see you, Hontas, Death Shaker, Reed M10. By the way, Catherine Lambeth, I saw is in the chat. Catherine Lambeth, I know you've been messaging me on Discord and stuff. I just wanted to say congratulations on facial feminization surgery. Sorry I haven't responded because I've been busy, but congratulations on getting facial feminization surgery. That's so amazing, and I'm so glad you're doing better. I'm kind of I actually just officially confirmed my first pre-surgery appointment for my own facial feminization surgery literally yesterday, which I'm very pumped about because that's coming in January. So that's coming, and I'm excited to hear that you're going well and that you're getting through it, Catherine and Beth. So hell yes, that's amazing. Hello, who else is here? Selkie, good to see you. Valence, Hannah, Dardam, apologies if I said that wrong. Sage MacArthur, good to see you. Mr. Wicked Wolf, thank you for saying. I tip my cap to you, Miss Wicked Wolf. Yes, good day to you, good human being. Let's see. Is there a neutral sir or madam? I know sir is considered gender neutral, but it's not really. Is there a good good day, good sir, or good day, good madam, but a non-binary? Good day, good NB. I like that. There's gotta be a non-binary or gender neutral pretentious way to say hello to somebody. I need that in my life. If someone knows what it is, I'm here for it. Please tell me what it is. Sorry, I'm just turning down the music a little bit because it is a little bit loud. Let me make sure at least it's loud on my end. There we go. There we are. Cool. Good day, good person. Citizen. I like that. Thank you, citizen. Oh, what if we're not saying what? But then that gets into politics about states and are we all really citizens? Not everyone's considered a citizen. And then that gets, because that can get into a whole other political conversation beyond gender. Flamo Hot Man. Oh my gosh. I like that, Lisa Garrison. Flamo. Good day, Flamo Hot Man. I like that one. That one's great. Lisa, I think Lisa has officially won the stream with that one. Oh my gosh. The one I use is ... because I don't interact with people. Fair, Bacasta. Absolutely fair. Before we get much further, just to say a few things up front to Taryn. Yes, Taryn. Good day, Taryn. I like that one too. What was I gonna say? Yes, the thing that I want to say, just a few things really quickly up front before we get started with the stream. First off, let me just introduce what this is if you're new. If you are brand new to this stream, this is my weekly chat stream where every week we just hang out for about an hour or so, just to have some fun, enjoy ourselves. You know, if you do super chats, I give you a heart because super chats do help pay the bills and I appreciate them very much. But no worries if you can't do super chats, there's no pressure either way. Otherwise, I just talk about whatever you want to talk about, whatever discussion comes up naturally in the chat. And I eventually end up going on weird rants. Sometimes I wear 50 hats like I did last week and just put on a bunch of little different hats. So if you're new here, welcome. It's good to see you. You are lovely. Mwah, 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 and I appreciate you being here. If you're not new, well, thank you for coming back. Thank you for being here. What are you doing here? You should know better. You should know better than to come back. How dare you? No, you're totally wonderful. And then the second thing that I should say before we get started is this chat stream is going to end a little bit early tonight. I'm gonna go for about 45 minutes. So we'll end in 45 minutes instead of about an hour. The reason being is at 7:30 tonight, so about 45 minutes after I'm going to end. So I'm Pacific time. So it's 6 o'clock Pacific time. I'm going to go for 45 minutes to 6:45 Pacific time. And then I'm going to take about a 45-minute break during which I'm going to have dinner. And then at 7:30, if you are a patron of mine, patrons and I are going to be doing a watch-along of The Matrix this evening, which I'm very excited about. It's been actually a hot minute since I've seen The Matrix in preparation for the new Matrix movie. It's a trans film. It's going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to have a beer. It'll be a good time. So if you want to join for that, if you're already a patron, go join Patreon and go there. And you'll be able to join that. I'll post up the link before we go. And if you're not a patron, it's easy. You can easily sign up to be a patron. I'm not, like, if you want to take part in the watch along, literally, like, $1, just give me $1. Or, like, I think the way it works is you can even set it up to not be a patron until, like, next month, but you still get access to all the stuff. So if you want, I'm a totally fair way to do this. Go sign up on Patreon. Just don't even give me money. Just sign up to be a #1 person. Come and join us in this chat. Come and join us in the watch along. It'll be a fun time. You don't need to give me money. Or if you just give me $1, whatever, it's totally fine. And that's it. I'm not, basically the point I'm trying to make is come join us. I'm not necessarily shilling for money. I honestly want you to come and join us. I just have it up as a Patreon perk. So I would love to have you there, but just keep in mind that we'll be ending a little bit early in anticipation of that, so I can have a little bit of time to sort of like chill before we do that, and I can get some dinner and get some food in my belly before we get started. So that's how we're gonna get going. But with all that said, let's hang out and do the chat stream, because I already see some people doing lovely super chats. Catherine and Beth with a Catherine, that is an absolutely generous and thank you so much, Catherine. Heart to you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And again, I hope you're healing up well, and I'll make sure to respond to you in Discord, but that is so kind. It's good to be back. I'm feeling a whole lot better. Good luck with your own facial feminization surgery in a few months. I am very excited for it. Like I said, I just yesterday I got, like, they have to do like a few pre-surgery appointments where it's just like, I guess I don't know, whatever the doctor's gonna do, measure my face, poke it in certain places, who knows. I've already did, like, they had to do like a whole scan of like my skeleton, my facial skeleton already. They did that like a while ago. And so I just have a few appointments of that, and then my surgery's in end of January, so I'm very excited about that. Not exactly excited for the healing part, but excited for the the actual getting it done part, because I've been trying to get it for forever, so it'll be fun. And then someone said tomorrow's the first day of October. Miss Wicked Wolf said that. I know, Miss Wicked Wolf. October is my favorite month because it's the spooky month, and spooky stuff is my favorite. I love spooky things. I'm actually very excited because I'm gonna watch all the horror movies. I'm gonna watch Venom on Friday, which isn't really a horror movie, but Venom 2, I'm gonna watch it because it's gonna be terrible, trashy, and I love terrible and trashy sometimes. But I'm a huge horror movie fan. I'm actually putting together a video because I haven't really I talk about horror movies every once in a while, but I'm a huge horror movie fan, and so I'm actually putting together a video, not for this channel, but for my other channel, where I'm going to share my top 10 underrated horror movies. Movies that I think, like, no one really talks about, but I think they're really, really good, and I think people should watch. So I'm going to be putting that together. That'll be coming out in, like, a week or two. So if you're looking for good horror movies to watch this October, keep an eye out for that, because I need to share more of my horror love. I love horror a lot, and I talk more science fiction on both of my channels, honestly. So I need to talk more horror, because you can see, like, in the videos that I do, like, my own thing, I tend to do, like, a horror aesthetic quite a bit. Like, there's a few of my videos that, like, when it's not talking about specific media stuff, but it's, like, work or trans issues, I tend to, like, give it a horror vibe, just because that's my proclivities as, like, a creator. I like horror-y stuff. Horror comedy is actually my favorite genre. Sorry, I'm off on a whole tangent here, but horror comedy is my favorite, like, genre specifically. And so, like, I love mixing horror and comedy in my own stuff, and so that's my own sort of, like, weirdly specific, like, genre. So there you go. And I'll see some people already asking about some horror movies, so I'll share some in just a little bit on the stream. Oh, and Mountain Harpy, thank you for saying my vids last month were really effing good. You're really effing good, Mountain Harpy. I really appreciate that. That's really kind. But I see another super chat here. KJ Zana, heart to you. Thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate you. Mwah. Thank you so much, you lovely, lovely human. You said, what are your thoughts on Fallout Boy? Oh, boy. Fallout Boy. I'll be honest with you. I don't know Fallout Boy that well. My experiences with, like, bands of that era is fairly limited. I mean, I'm not really a huge music person in general. In terms of like following specific, I like have a few specific bands that I follow. Like Traverches is a great band of mine that I love. Daft Punk. But I was never like hugely into music and like the specifics of like learning about how music was created, the backstory of bands and things like that. Mostly because I do that a lot with movies and TV shows, or like I learn about the creators, I learn about how a movie was made, I learn about the behind the scenes. That's sort of like my interest is, and music is like a place for me to just get pure inspiration from. Let me put it this way, like as someone who wants to be a filmmaker, likes to be a video person, likes to be a creator, likes to write stories. When it comes to those things, I like learning the processes of them because it helps me grow and like learn, and also like lose this anxiety of like I can't make things. When you learn about the process, someone's like, oh, I see how they got to make this thing, and do stuff. But for me, music is more of a source of like I just want this to remain somewhat magical to me, and not that learning about the process can ruin the magic, but I just like I don't know. There's like a magic to music, and so I just like kind of like don't learn a lot about music. I just like find music that hits me and I just enjoy. Talking about Fall Out Boy specifically, though, Fall Out Boy was, like, big back when I was in, like, middle and high school and a little bit after that. And I'll be frank, my tastes in high school were, like, this weird taste where it was, like, I liked the super masculine stuff because I wanted to, like, make sure people knew that I was definitely a dude. So I listened to, like, Metallica, and I listened to like that sort of stuff. I was big into Metallica for a while in high school. But then when I got to but I also had like this other side of me that was like the stuff that I didn't want anyone to know I liked because it would be embarrassing for a quote boy to like. Basically what I'm saying is I was a big Aaron Carter fan. I know. Aaron, oh Aaron, what are we going to do with you? Always, I know. I'm sorry. Setting aside Aaron Carter today. So yeah, sadly, I don't have many opinions on Fall Out Boy, but, yeah. So sorry I can't answer that question really well, but yeah, that's my opinion on Fall Out Boy. Is like just one that it was just a band that I completely missed, for most parts. Like I've obviously heard songs of theirs, and they sound like they're like a decent like kind of emo-y boy band sort of thing, that I don't think is bad. They're like in that same sort of genre, and people probably kill me for this because they know better, but for me, they kind of fall in that same genre as like Panic at the Disco, sort of thing. But I still like them. I enjoy them quite a bit, but I don't have much of a strong opinion on them, so. Oh gosh, Ulysses the Pagan, why would you bring up the Centipede movie? Oh, I mean, heavens to them. They went all out with that Centipede movie, and you know what? Sometimes you just gotta you know what? Tip my hat to you. Yep. You had a vision, and you executed that vision. It's not a vision I wanted to ever see, but good for you for making it, I guess. Oh yeah, my Corin is very cute. I love this owl mug. I call it my monocowl. It's a little monocowl, because he's got a little monocle and he's an owl, so he's a monocowl. I'm clever, aren't I? So monocowl. I don't know what I never go. Oh, Psychic Refugee, I hope you're doing well, by the way. Good to see you, heart to you, you lovely, lovely human. Congrats on the FFS appointment, sweetie. Me and my TSP crew send. Oh, yay! Yeah, the trans support group, by the way, is TSP. Jane, oh, sorry, I shouldn't say well, you have it on your Twitter, so Janie. But Psychic Refugee runs a trans support group and Slumber Party, not support group, Slumber Party. Trans Slumber Party, that she does every weekend or two, that I've been a part of every once in a while. It's a really nice and supportive place. You should go follow it on Twitter, if you want to join it, because it's really nice and really affirming and just a nice little place for like trans people to be weirdo dorks on a Saturday night. So yes, please give them a follow, and thank you very much, Janie. You're lovely. I like it at Just Gender, but I feel like a monocowl would be a cowl-style mask with a built-in monocle. I mean, things can be multiple things. A monocowl, yeah. So I guess it's a monic owl. Manowl? Is it a manowl? So it's a monocle owl. That's a manowl. Whereas a monocowl is a cowl with a monocle. But then you have a monocowl. Or manowl? Manowl. There we go. We're gonna go with Manowl. um, let's see. What else was there? I thought a few other things that I wanted to quick make sure I said something to in the chat. What did I see? Maybe Eddie will have Venom babies. Ooh, what is the best Star Trek horror episode? October is it? Ooh, Sonia. Okay, I'm gonna tease this. Sonia, if you want to know what I think the best Star Trek horror episode is, I might be doing a video on it. My next video might be on the scariest Star Trek episode ever made. And I kind of had a lot of fun. Speaking of me doing videos with a little bit of a horror bent, I did film a video. It's done. It's coming out in not this week, but next week. That is the scariest Star Trek episode, that, in my opinion, and I do a whole thing on it. So I'm very excited to share it. It's actually technically a sacred trek, so people have been missing sacred treks. It's a return for sacred treks, but I'm totally doing something new with it. So it'll be fun. So I will answer that question for you in a full video, Sonia, to tease a little bit. Let's see. Chloe Bennon, thank you so much for heart to you. You are absolutely lovely. Thank you so much. You said, should we create a drinking game for The Matrix? Take a shot every time we spot a trans metaphor. Wouldn't you just be technically waterfalling? Because the whole movie is a trans metaphor, so you just be like the entire Matrix. You just have to down it. I'm not against doing a drinking game. I don't want to get too drunk tonight. Because I'm planning on actually getting drunk Friday night, too, with some friends while watching Venom 2. So it'll be a whole thing. So I don't want to get too drunk, and I'm also getting drunk Saturday night for drunk gaming night. So I don't want to get drunk 3 nights in a row, but I am going to have some beers tonight, and we can do a drinking game. I just probably will pace myself if we do it tonight. So we'll talk about it once we get into, I talk for about 15 minutes before we start the movie. So we'll figure it out once we do that over on Patreon. Let's see. Hey, Louie Man Gaming, good to see ya. Ooh, let's see. Miss Wicked Wolf, what was your favorite Halloween costume growing up? For me, I was a Cub Simba in kindergarten and first grade. Oh, that's super adorable. Yeah, I remember being, I have a Dracula costume that I remember looking adorable in. Cute little, like baby boy looking Jessie is like a Dracula. It was cute. I was Scotty for 1 year on Halloween, like, give it all she's got, Captain, sort of thing. And then, but I think my favorite was, I'm trying to think, probably, I had a Goku from Dragon Ball Z costume that I actually think looked really good. I had like the Super Saiyan hair, and I had like the karate outfit. I actually think it looked really cool as like Goku. I think that was a fun costume that I actually did. I don't know if any of you have pictures of that, but I did have a Goku costume that I really, really loved, and I think that was a fun costume. Oh, Molly. Oh, everyone send... Molly, sending you love. I'm so sorry. You said, got bad news, lost my job today, so very sad. And Eric, I see your super chat, and I'll address it in a second, but I just want to send Molly Manning some love. Molly, I'm so sorry. That really sucks. But it's totally okay. I'm sorry that happened. Hopefully, it's just a temporary thing. And I know it sucks, and I know it's not going to help right now. I'm sure you probably feel like crap because it's crappy. But just know that this is just something that happens. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lose their jobs. I've lost my job. I lost one of my best jobs I ever had for something stupid. In fact, have I ever shared this story? I don't know if I ever shared this story, but I lost my job for something really, really dumb in that I used to work at Microsoft years back. I used to be a video producer for them. And one weekend I was supposed to do some work for them, and it was on Monday I was supposed to do a shoot, and I had I had to take camera equipment home, like expensive camera equipment, and I loaded it into the car on Sunday night too, so I could drive in Monday morning, because it was like 4 a.m. I had to get up, so I loaded it in the car, and someone came into our garage area, broke into my car, and stole all the camera equipment. Thankfully, we still got the shoot done because we were able to rent some cameras and stuff, but obviously I lost my job after that. It was dumb of me to put it in the car. That was stupid. But it was not my fault in the long run. It was someone else doing something crappy, and it sucked for a bit. And the reason I tell that story, Molly, is not to, like, think woe is me. The reason I share that is, like, it's been several years, and it was a lot of ups and downs since then. But I am doing great now, and things worked out. Life continued, and just know the point that I guess I'm making is, Molly, just know that like this sucks right now, and I know you know this, but there's still happiness on the way. There's still good things on the way, and losing your job for whatever reason is just a step on the road that we call life. And I know it's going to make things shitty for a little bit, but just know that like you are loved by the people in your life, by people in this community, by me, and that there are still good and happy things ahead. And we send you, literally everyone here sends you all the love. So I sorry to indulge my own story there. I realize now I probably should have just said all that up front, but I share that story because I just want you to know, like, I've been there. I've lost my job. I've lost my job for something stupid. And it sucks, but just know, Molly, that you are absolutely loved, and like you are absolutely fantastic, and it's going to be okay. So, but I saw a couple super chats coming in here, but I just wanted to make sure I said, because Molly, you are supremely, I mean, everyone here is, literally everyone in this chat, you are a supremely adored and wonderful part of this community, whether this is your first chat or you've been here for a long time. But specifically, Molly, you have been an absolute joy in this community, and I love seeing you here. So just want you to know that you are absolutely fantastic, Molly. Absolutely adore you. So I just want you to know that you are loved, and it's going to be okay. Erica, I want to give you a heart, Erica. You are amazing. Thank you so much for your super chat. You said, is there a horror movie that creeped you out so badly you stopped watching it mid-movie and never revisited it? No. I don't get really creeped out, but there are horror movies that creep me out, but there's never been one that's been like so scary that I've been like, I can't handle it. I will share what my favorite type of scare really quick. My favorite type of scare really quickly is, in any horror movie, jump scares don't really, they'll make me jump, obviously, but they don't really scare me that much. The type of scare that gets me every damn time is when you're watching a shot that is confident. It is just a static shot, or maybe just a little bit of movement or whatever. It's just a static shot, and it's making your eyes focus on something in the shot. Maybe it's like a character or like something else, and then the shot stays there for like it's like a long shot, and then you notice something else in the frame that the camera did not highlight, like you're not focusing on, and then you notice that there's something off. And you're like, oh my god, it was just right there the entire time. Movies that do that have a shot where they are so confident that they will hide the scary thing right in frame and you will not notice it until they want you to. Oh, scare me so much. The movie The Ritual did this. It's a Netflix horror movie. The Ritual did this. There's another one that's like a horror comedy called, I think it's called Homebound. I might be misremembering. It's like Homeward or Home. I think it's called Homebound, I believe, is the horror movie. It's a horror comedy. I think it's a Irish horror comedy. Really, really good horror comedy. But within that horror comedy, there is a shot like that within it. That's like, that movie is mostly funny. That shot scares the crap out of me. Horrifying. I'm trying to think a few others have done this. Actually, I'm watching, I haven't finished it yet, but Midnight Mass I'm watching right now. I'm watching the show Midnight Mass. Mike Flanagan is a god when it comes to horror. I love Mike Flanagan so much. I'm like 3 or 4 episodes into Midnight Mass, and I won't spoil for anybody, but he does have shots like that. Not my favorites, but they're really good. And so that's my kind of like favorite sort of horror thing in horror movies. Let's see. And I know I see a few super chats coming up, so I just want to make sure I did that. Heart to you, J Lord. Thank you so much for your super chat. You said, what would you say to the anti-PC element of nerd culture who basically want to go back to the mentality of the 90s and early 2000s? Oh, that's a longer conversation, J Lord. There's so many things that I would say to that. And I mean, it also kind of depends on who I'm talking to. Because, look, I mean, I've talked about this before, and I don't want to necessarily name names again to this whole debacle because it'd be a whole conversation. But there are certain YouTubers and other creators that are using this sort of like wokeness and the writers are trying to put their politics into stories, whatever, that are like using that as a grift because they know it's stuff that just gets said and it's ultimately vapid and meaningless and just is a like woke has become a term to just mean things that I don't like. It's such a nebulous term, and ultimately meaningless, and also like most things like used, it's stolen from black culture, because woke was a term that came out of black culture, and sadly people like to steal from black culture and co-opt it for their own horrible stuff. But regardless, so there is a grift in that. However, there are people that like earnestly argue that point, and I want to have empathy for that to a degree. And I think it comes out of like nostalgia, wanting their things to stay, wanting to stay the way that they used to be without realizing that stories evolve. Like, number one, the things that they loved are still there. Star Trek: The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager all still exist, and you can rewatch them. But I don't want the same thing again. I want stories to go forward. Star Trek is never a series. Star Trek in any franchise is never about the actual thing that they're depicting. They're always about our society today. And I want the things that are made to speak to society today. And I want art to take risks. I want art to evolve. I want art to change. I want things to be different. And yeah, sometimes that won't be good. Sometimes it will be bad. Sometimes it'll make mistakes. But I want it to be different. I want it to take risks. So there's that element of it that I think that I think is what people are feeling. To a large degree, and then it's added into this culture war nonsense of like, oh, look, the white people are getting pushed out of stuff. Oh, the white cis men are getting pushed out of things. And I think it preys upon this like, oh, it's not centering on me anymore sort of feeling. And I get that can feel different and feel like it's ostracizing, but it's just people not being aware of how people like trans people like people of color feel, having never been centered or able to have their voice represented in fiction. And so them feeling like they're being pushed out of something is just not them being pushed out, but just other voices being centered. And again, I have some degree of sympathy for people who do not have that experience, to know what that feels like, to never have that. But they're not empathizing because they have not had the ability to, they've never been, not that they don't have the ability, they've never been trained to have that empathy. They've never been trained to have to put themselves into other people's shoes. And so I feel like that's a lot of it. And I can go into a whole longer conversation. I could probably say it a little bit better than I am right now. Like there's a much larger discussion to be had on that. So what I would say to people is like, I think there's a great line that I'll paraphrase from Leonard Nimoy. Leonard Nimoy is talking about canon, and he was talking about Star Trek specifically, but I'll sort of paraphrase and say it about all things. It's like, let art go let art take it where it wants you to. Ask, where does art, Star Trek, whatever franchise, want to take me now? And let it take you there. And maybe question yourself. And I'm not saying you have to like it. You don't have to. I don't love every single piece of media today. I'm not a big fan of the new Star Wars movies. But I'm glad that things are trying to do new things, trying to be different, you know? That was actually my big problem with the Star Wars movies, is that they weren't different. They were just trying to redo the same things. The things that they did different, I actually appreciated, even if I didn't always like them. So, but yeah, sorry, I'm missing a few other super chats. So, J-Lord, you hit upon a really interesting topic, one that I do want to talk about in depth more, but I want to make sure that we do it in a way that's like being empathetic, but also recognizing that, you know, it's harming people too, some of that rhetoric. Anywho, Gretchen Badger, number one, Gretchen Badger, thank you so much. That is an extremely generous super chat. Like, thank you so much. That is insanely kind. Thank you so much, Gretchen. Heart to you. Also, sorry I said insanely. I'm trying to get that out of my lexicon because I know it can be kind of ableist. So apologies I said that word. But Gretchen Badger, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate that. That is insane. That is generous. Sorry. Do it without thinking. Apologies. But I'm trying to do my first video essay, and other than taking notes and putting together an outline, I don't know how to proceed. Could you talk through how you go about doing video essays? How do you get clips from shows, music, etc.? So the biggest thing with video essays is I sit in existential dread for a very, very long time. I joke, but that's kind of true. So what you've already doing is what I do too. I think I digitized them. Yeah, I digitized a lot of them recently, but typically I have like notes floating around, like notepads floating around all the places. I sort of like have ideas that I like put on my phone, my notepad on my phone, things like that. And I just sort of like let them simmer and sit for a very long time. And like, I'll think of like a topic or an idea like, I want to talk about, what's something I did recently? Like like how trans people experience burnout, for example, or how people like certain groups weaponize burnout, for example. I'll have that as a topic, and then I'll start like looking up things, start doing research, and I won't like do it. I'm thankfully enough ahead that I don't need to like rush with this stuff, but I sort of like let myself percolate in it for a while, and then I'll do what you said. I'll start outlining and taking notes, and sort of like start putting things into some sort of order. But the hardest part always, literally the hardest part in any video that I ever make, is actually sitting down to write. Is actually like, for me, it's like I have a lot of anxiety knowing, like whenever it's a writing day, I have a lot of anxiety. Any writing day is like, I'm like, oh God, it's a writing day. I don't want to do it. I'm scared. And so I feel that. And the best thing you can do is just set yourself up for success. Sit down at a computer, because I know I try to distract myself. Like, I'll take a shower, I'll clean up, I'll do this, I'll try and do all these things. Best thing you do, sit in front of a computer, open the blank page, and look at it. Just look at it. And I know that sometimes just doing that is the hardest thing to do, because you're going to feel bad if you don't write anything, but you're not going to write anything if you don't put yourself in that position. You need to put yourself into that position, and that's always the biggest hurdle. It is, I kid you not, it is always the biggest hurdle to just put yourself in front of a computer and look at a blank page. It's because it's scary. But you have to do it. And then the next hardest thing is just write. Just write. It doesn't have to be good. Just write. Write it. Put it out. Like, take your notes and just start writing. And you can always make bad writing better. You can't make no writing, if that makes any sense. So just sit down and write it. And I feel this anxiety every single time. And you can go off your notes and outlines and things like that. In terms of like what other stuff that you're talking about, like how you, and then I just sort of write from things, and I'll usually have notes and clips from shows. When you talk about like the logistics of finding things from shows and clips, a lot of the time I will have, like if I'm writing about the Queen's Gambit or Star Trek or whatever. Star Trek, I'll usually I'll know exactly, because I've seen it so many times, I'll kind of know generally where the clip is. But I'll like download the show and have it on my laptop or whatever that I'm writing on my computer or whatever, and I try to just start, I just find the clips that I need or things that I'll like take notes of, like, oh, episode 6 of the Queen's Gambit at 20 minutes. Here's the clip that I want to use to like make this point, or here's this idea. You just have to watch them. That's just how you do it. You just have to watch them. Generally, you'll have an idea. If you have a script idea, you'll generally have an idea of what shows you're going to be talking about. Sometimes if you want to look, if it's a show that like you want an example of, but you don't know if the show exists or where you get an example from, you can just Google it. I also look at like other video essays on similar topics and see what other people have been talking about. I'm like, I don't know, just some other YouTuber used this video for this topic. Maybe I can build off of that or take inspiration from that. Never steal, obviously, but more be like, oh, I see this person made a great point about the male gaze in the movie, like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and I'll start, talking about that and sort of like use that as an inspiration sort of thing. But that's generally how I do that. All right, so I've been talking about that for quite a bit, but hopefully that helps. What sources do you use for video capture? OBS. I just video capture from OBS, or I just download the episode from places. Let's just put it that way. John Vinels, Heart 2, thank you so much for your super chat. You are lovely. Again, that is a really generous super chat. I'm sorry, getting it out of my brain. That is a very generous super chat. But thank you so much. I really appreciate that, John. Thank you. You said, let me hit you up with the idea of an adaptation of The Tempest, where Prospero is Prosperina, Antonio is Andrina, and Ferdinand is Veronica. Oh, that would be great. I haven't read the Tempest, to be honest, in a while. I did it years ago, so I'm not familiar with the story, but I love gender swapping stories. I think gender swapping stories can be a lot of fun. I saw a gender swapped, what was it? It was, I saw a gender swapped Julius Caesar years ago. And it was really fascinating because it was like their focus was like on violence and how things felt different when you had women enacting violent, like physical violence against other women, as opposed to men enacting physical violence against men, and like trying to like really analyze that when like what it feels like, and sort of interrogate that in an interesting way. And so I love like when you gender swap really well known stories, like what it reveals about that, because doing just a gender swap just to do a gender swap I don't think is interesting. I think if you do a gender swap, you should make sure that like you don't even have to change the words, but like you're blocking your actors making choices, your characterization of these actors, even if the literal lines on the page are exactly the same, I think informs it, because I think our cultural view of gender will always inform stuff like that. And so I think if you're going to gender swap stuff, you should do something interesting with it. As much as I mean, this character got better, but like, and I loved this character back when I watched the show, and I still do. I love this show. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, and I still love this character. But it is interesting. You look at something like Starbuck from the Battlestar Galactica reboot, and how they gender swapped her character. And initially, she changed over time, but initially, and Katie Sackhoff is great, but initially she came off as just like a dude who happened to be like, she was written very the same as like if you would put a dude in that role. Whereas someone like in that very same show, they also gender swapped, I believe, Athena, I believe it was Athena. Maybe I'm wrong. No, that doesn't make sense. I forget, but like, make sure they did develop Katie Sackhoff's character as Starbuck, because I love that character, and they did eventually sort of like interrogate what it means for her to be a woman in this role. I just think it's sort of interesting. Like, if you're gonna gender swap, like, you don't have to have the character's defining feature being I'm a woman now. Like, I wouldn't want that either, but I think making sure that when you do that, you interrogate why you made that choice, and I think it's kind of interesting to do something like that. So, Boomer, thank you everybody. Boomer was the one. Athena is the same. Athena is the same actress, but Boomer was the initial character. Thank you. And I think Boomer, actually, they did a better job with Boomer in the initial stages of that show, really differentiating her from her male counterpart in the older series, I think, as well. I love Boomer. Boomer's great. Just the actress was fantastic. That show is like Battlestar Galactica, the reboot in general, is just a like one of the, like, easily in my top 10 science fiction shows of all time. Easily. Let's see. Hard to use Stephen Fenn. Thank you so much for your super chat. You said, so last week on Lower Decks, we learned that Annie Billups is asexual, so this is what representation feels like. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that yeah. I mean, I said in my review about Billups in Lower Decks, I don't think that, it might not even been the intention of the writers to be asexual. And I mentioned that Billups might come across as asexual, and I saw in the comments of that video that a lot of people had different interpretations of Billups being asexual. Some people didn't see him as asexual at all. Asexual people said they didn't see Billups as asexual at all. Some people did. And I think that goes to some of the parts of explicit representation, but also, like, it's an interesting discussion, because I think, and this is something that, I mean, this is a whole other conversation that we could get into that I won't right here, because it's a whole other discourse that's been going on, but there's a whole spectrum of asexuality, right? Spectrum that has been discussed because of certain other YouTubers who, again, I won't get into it, saying things on things like Twitter, that seem to not understand the very difference of, like, what asexuality is and the spectrum of asexuality. And I think that, again, I am not asexual, so I'm speaking from the outside in, and there are definitely going to be things that I miss within that community because I'm not part of it. But, like, there is a spectrum of asexuality and what asexuality means to people, how people feel it, what can be defined as. Like, asexuality is a spectrum in its own right, in terms of, like, what people feel about asexuality, whether sex positive, sex negative, sex neutral, sort of things. And so I think that, like, Billups, because there's so little asexual representation, because Billups is, potentially asexual, I think a lot of people are reading into it and sort of anticipating certain things, wanting certain things from this character that the character is just never going to be able to do, because he's not going to be all-encompassing in that way. And he may not even be asexual, because there might even be cultural stigmas, like the way the character is written is like he may just not want to participate in sex because of the way it was sort of foisted on him in his life. And he may like sex, but he just doesn't care to take part of it, which could be seen as asexual, sex positive, or it could just be someone who is sexual who just actively chooses to be celibate, which there's difference. There's gradations of it. Again, asexuality is a spectrum. So I think it's fascinating, and I look forward to how the show continues to explore that. I trust the writers of the show. They've done a good job of like showing Mariner being bisexual, and exploring those aspects of sexuality in Star Trek, that in a humorous way, obviously, but in cool ways. And so, I trust them to do some good with Billups and being asexual potentially in that show. And it's something that I even will be listening with an interesting ear towards asexual folks and see what they think about Billups in Star Trek, because I'm not asexual, so I'm curious to hear what the asexual community has to say about the character. Let's see. I'm just seeing more super chats in here. Let's see. Chloe, thank you so much for your second super chat. I really appreciate you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. You said, a hidden gem of horror, Alice, Sweet Alice, 1976. Ooh, I never saw that. Where's my... I like my little recommendation list. Alex, Sweet Alice. I'll check it out. I actually don't know that one, which is surprising because I generally know a crap ton of horror. So I will check that out. Thank you so much, Chloe. I really appreciate that. Punk Rock Zoologist, heart to you. You said, by the way, Punk Rock Zoologist, you are lovely and awesome. I'm glad to see you here. You said, I was so big into metal in high school, so I was so heavily against emo music, but now I kind of love it all and will unironically belt alongside Black Parade anytime I hear it. Yeah, I was kind of into emo music a little bit too for a period. I guess emo in the sense of like, I liked I guess emo might not be the right, well, it might be like indie folk, like the December. I mean, I still love the Decemberists, but like Decemberists, The Shining, who else? A few other people that I'm blanking on right now off the top of my head. But I was like definitely in that like indie folk, like sad Sufjan Stevens. Like there's like I'm really deep because I'm playing a guitar by myself and putting some like folky kind of music behind it. Which to be fair, Sufjan Stevens, The Decemberists, The Shins are great. I still love them to this day. Some of my favorite bands, but definitely was a vibe that I was feeling in high school. All right. Let's see. Ulysses the Pagan, heart to you. Thank you so much for your super chat. You said, going to miss the watch along. My brother, after making hurtful remarks about my relationship with Abby, wants to have a sit down with us. He feels guilty and wants to understand. We feel so agreed to give him. Oh, that's good. I remember you mentioning that earlier. And thank you, by the way, for the super chat, Ulysses. I remember you mentioning that a few weeks ago that your brother was being very hurtful. I think we talked about it on stream when it happened a little while ago. So I'm sorry that happened, and I'm sorry you're going to miss the watch along because of it, but I'm glad that you're at least going to sit down, and hopefully you'll be able to air your your hurt and actually able to explain to your brother why the things that he said was hurtful. I forget the exact things that they were. I remember you mentioning them when we talked about it earlier, but I'm glad. Again, it sucks that you're going to miss the watch along, but I am glad for the fact that you are going to be able to actually talk that out. That's the more important thing. So totally understandable you're missing the watch along. Totally get it. I'd rather you miss the watch along and have that conversation. It's way more important. But I'm glad. Hopefully, I know it'll probably be tough, but I hope some good comes of it. So sending you love for that conversation, Ulysses. Sarah, heart to you. Thank you so much for your super chat. You said, evening, Jessie. Thoughts on the Babylon 5 reboot? Ooh, I have so many thoughts on this and not enough time to give them out. So for those of you who didn't hear, there is going to be a Babylon 5. There is in the works. Until they start shooting, I won't believe if it'll actually happen. I never believe something's actually going to happen until they actually are filming on set, and even then, sometimes not always going to be the case. But there currently is in the works a Babylon 5 reboot with J. Michael Straczynski, who wrote the original Babylon 5, like all of the original Babylon 5, at the helm. On the one hand, I am excited because I love Babylon 5. I think it's a great show, and I think updating for the modern times is cool. And I think that show could definitely say some cool stuff today. What has me tepid on it is J. Michael Straczynski coming back. Don't get me wrong. I love J. Michael Straczynski. He is a fantastic writer, and I love his work. Have always loved his work. There's very few things that he has written that I have not objectively at least liked. Most of it loved. But to have him come back to do a reboot at the helm of it, I'm just sort of like, you had your... you dominated that show. Like, he wrote, like, I think 95% of those episodes. Like, he wrote pretty much all of it. And it's like, you did this show. And I don't mind you coming back to tell more stories in that universe, but to reboot it, I would be more interested if someone else got to reboot it and do something different with it. I'd like to see someone else's vision. That's not to say I'm sure he's definitely grown as an artist. I'm sure he'll have many good things to say with it. It's the same thing I had with Russell T Davies redoing, coming back to Doctor Who. I think Russell T Davies will do a great job with Doctor Who. I think J. Michael Straczynski will do great things with this reboot of Babylon 5. I think, and it may even be fantastic. But what interests me more is I'm mildly more interested in seeing someone else's version of Babylon 5. If you're going to reboot it at all. I mean, I'm also be down to see someone else's version of another sci-fi show that's something different and similar. Like The Expanse isn't the same exact thing, but The Expanse is kind of like Babylon 5 of today, in my opinion. And so that's sort of my read on it is like I'm excited for it. I am sure it will be no less than good. But J. Michael Straczynski coming back to it is the one thing I'm like, oh, I would have liked to see someone else do something with it, but I'm sure it'll be fine. The only other thing that concerns me about it before we get too much into it, because I need to start wrapping out soon, is it being on the CW apparently. Apparently it's going to be on the CW, which that's my biggest concern on the show. Don't get me wrong, there is a certain part of me that does like the CW, and I'm not saying the CW can't make good shows. They can. But there is a certain level of quality that the CW is known for that I'm like, I would like Babylon 5 to be above that quality bar, if you catch my drift. So that's my one concern. I would have much rather be like Babylon 5 be like an HBO Max show, because it's made by the same company. So I would much rather like Babylon 5 come to HBO Max than I would on the CW. That's the one thing that's concerning me. But then again, who knows? I mean, people have surprised me before. So that's my concern on that front. All right, I see 2 more super chats. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna answer these super chats because it is getting to the time I need to wind down so I can go get some dinner. So I'm gonna wind this down. So just gonna answer these 2 last super chats and then head out for the evening, everybody. Again, sorry that this chat stream is a little bit shorter than typical. I'll make next week's a little bit longer because I do apologize, but I have to make sure to rest my voice for the movie coming up. But J Lord says, heart to you. You said, I'm a liberal, but I don't really have a problem with the male gaze, women sexualized man in art. I say bring back Laura Croft because she was a woman with gay gamers could link. So again, this is a whole other conversation. J Lord, you ask good questions that make me want to give long responses. So I'm going to actually do a video on this. Actually, I am actually just, speaking of notes we were talking about earlier, I've written actually a whole bunch of notes I'm going to write about the male gaze in Star Trek, is a plan that I'm going to write about in the near future. I do not think the male gaze is inherently a bad thing. And when we talk about the male gaze, we talk about male gaze in terms of the sexualization of women, because the whole point of the male gaze is it's meant to be, it actually be better described as the exterior gaze. Because the male gaze is all about, seeing things, focusing on exterior experiences. Focusing in on a single point of view and externalizing the experiences, right? And so what that does is it typically otherizes other people. So so it will otherize other people that aren't the protagonist and aren't the person who's directing the film, the perspective of the person directing the film. The reason it's called the male gaze and not the exterior gaze is because the people who got to make movies, the people who got to make this type of gaze were mostly men. And so the people that you would see being centered as the interior part of that gaze were men, mostly cis straight white dudes, European dudes. And so they would otherize women, they would otherize people of color, they would otherize trans people within that gaze. That doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing as a style. The issue is with its ubiquitousness. That's generally almost always the problem. It's not that these are inherently bad things. It's just that they're ubiquitous. It's just that we only get things from the male point of view and that it otherizes other identities. and that no one else gets to have that type of point of view. I mean, even women coming in to direct films can still have make a movie from a male gaze. We tend to think like, oh, a woman directed the movie, so it's going to have like a feminine gaze. But a feminine gaze is actually a completely different thing, from a sort of philosophical perspective. And I could talk about that, and I'm going to talk about that in a different thing. That get into a whole other conversation. The problem with the male gaze is not that it is a bad thing inherently. It is that it is ubiquitous, and that is only ever used from the male point of, like a guy's point of view. Mostly cis straight white dudes' point of view. That's the problem. It's not to say it's inherently bad. It's just saying that it's only this one thing. You know what I mean? But like I said, I'm actually going to do a video on... I'm planning on doing a video about the male gaze in Star Trek and also the feminine gaze of Star Trek, because people tend to think like, oh, the feminine gaze is just like when the movie makes a woman like ogle a man. Like, no, that's still what we would consider to be the male gaze, the exterior gaze. But there is actually a whole different way of filmmaking that is what we would consider the feminine gaze. And I'll talk about that in that video. Again, it's almost a misnomer to call them male gaze and feminine gaze. It would probably be better to call them the exterior gaze and the interior gaze. But again, whole different conversation. And then the final super chat here is Chloe again. Thank you so much. Speaking of different gazes, a great gender swap horror movie, Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. I did see that one. That is a good movie. That's a lot of fun. It's been a while since I watched that one, but that is a very good movie. So thank you, Chloe, for suggesting that. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end. Like I said, I've already actually gone over 5 minutes, so I need to go and get some dinner ready. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for the super chats. Everyone gives super chats, but everyone else, I heart you and give you all the love. Mwah, mwah. Apologies to sort of chat and run. Normally I like to sort of end things a little bit slower than I am now, but I'm going to end now. I'm going to go get food. If you're a patron, I will see you in about 40 minutes or so. So just to give folks who need that. If you are a patron, the link will be posted in about 30 or 40 minutes. So just go over to Patreon. The link will be posted in about 40 minutes or so, and just click in, and I will start the stream at around 7:30 Pacific time. So if you're a patron, I will see you in just a short while. We're going to watch The Matrix. Otherwise, I love you all, and I will see you all Saturday. Because there's no video this Friday. The next video is going to be next Friday. So I will see the rest. The next big public thing will be Saturday. We're going to be playing the final. I'm going to be beating Life is Strange True Colors, so that the weekend after we can get into some spooky games like Alan Wake Remastered. So yeah, see you all I'll either see you all in 40 minutes if you're a patron, or I will see you this Saturday night where we're going to beat Life is Strange True Colors. I promise I won't forget the Choco Taco this time. Love you all. Mwah. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.